So I have a sad story for you, and I have a kind of cool story to tell you. And if you are a wrestling fan, I'm sure you know the sad story, so might as well start with that. This figure here, this is an Owen Hart official WWF Bend-Ems from Just Toys. This is Series 7. You've actually probably seen me open a couple other Bend-Ems from Just Toys. There was a Page Master, and there was a Star Wars Luke Skywalker. And they made, Just Toys. They made a lot of Bend-Ems. I have a Punisher, I have some X-Men. There's all kinds. It's from 1997. And if you were a wrestling fan or just know anything about wrestling, the sad story here is actually Owen Hart died in 1999 in Kansas City, Missouri. He, as kind of part of a stunt for a wrestling match, was being lowered from the rafters of the building using some ropes, and there were some harnesses and things like that. And apparently the safety latch on one of those harnesses became disengaged, and he fell pretty far. I think it was like 45 feet to the ring below, and he later died that night from internal bleeding. So it was definitely a big deal. I wasn't really into wrestling at the time, but I certainly heard about that. It was pretty big news and pretty tragic. It's I think for some, we're saying that show that wrestling is real. Obviously, there are scripts and it's staged and things like that, but the participants in wrestling, it's a very physical thing, and there are injuries, and in this case, a tragic accident. But Owen Hart, he's the brother of Bret the Hitman Hart, who's probably definitely more popular than Owen. And if you were a wrestling fan back then in the kind of early to mid 90s, you had to have the cool Bret the Hitman Hart glasses. Bret Hart had the pink and black leather jacket with the fringe. He did tag teams with his brother-in-law, Jim the Anvil Neihart. And the Hart family, they actually go by the Hart Foundation, are very big wrestling, I guess an empire, if you will. Their whole family in various circuits, and they've trained other wrestlers who have become famous in the WWF, now the WWE. So I was going to tell you a fun story here. I'll do it while I open this. One thing that's cool, I should mention about this packaging here, is the card on the back. It actually, you can see it's perforated, so it's actually kind of cool to be able to punch that out, and you can save that. So again, this is 1997, so it's 2 years before he died. You can also have subscribed to the WWF magazine, which I actually used to subscribe to when I was into wrestling. There's a ring for your Bend-Em figures. There's Crush, Shamrock, Patriot, and Owen Hart. And I was out of wrestling at this point, so I'm not familiar with those other guys. But Owen Hart, him and his family are pretty legendary. Anyway, so my interesting story. So I have a friend, and she lives in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And what's funny is, well, the first time I met her, I said, I know two things about Calgary. Even at this stage, this was last year, so I was 32 years old. I said, I know the Calgary Flames hockey team, and I know Bret the Hitman Hart, and Owen Hart, but primarily Bret the Hitman Hart. I said, that is all I know about Calgary, because you can see here, just on this card, he's from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I remember, the Hasbro WWF action figures, and I had the trading cards, and magazine, all that kind of stuff. And obviously, when they would announce the wrestlers during the matches, they would say where they're from. So the Bushwhackers were from New Zealand, and Big Boss Man was from Cobb County, Georgia. That was actually part of his theme song, which I actually had it would have been a tape. I had the cassette tape of the WWF theme music, which had his, and obviously, Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and things like that. Anyway, so I told her, I said, that's the only thing I know about Calgary, because that's the only time I ever heard it was when, they would announce Bret the Hitman Hart, or if I had had this tolling card and things like that. And she told me that one of the Harts was a substitute teacher at her school. And I said, no way. She goes, yeah, it was, I believe it's, double check here. I had it pulled up and I forget. I almost said Bruce Hart or Kevin Hart, but yeah, it was Bruce Hart. So Bruce Hart is still in Calgary, and you can check it out on the Wikipedia. He's actually part of or has been involved in the Calgary Board of Education. So Bruce Hart has been a substitute teacher for my friend who lives in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So it's kind of a weird thing. She's obviously not into wrestling at all, but and he's obviously not one of the more popular of the Hart brothers, but he has appeared in some WWF matches and guest referee and different things like that. So just kind of a weird random thing that I have a friend in Calgary who has been taught by one of the Harts. So anyway, thought that was kind of cool. So this, and I actually didn't know this until I just read this card right here. It said he was the youngest of 12, and he's won some awards. Obviously, his older brother Bret outshone him. But yeah, he's been the tag team title holder, King of the Ring. He was an Intercontinental Champion, and he was a good guy. He was a good wrestler. Kind of interesting to see right there that he's kind of got stuck to the card there. You can see the cardboard there is kind of peeling off the back there, but I don't know. This is kind of cool. I'm not really into wrestling anymore, so I'll probably sell this and somebody who is a wrestling fan. But yeah, so thanks for watching. This was the Just Toys 1997 Bend-Ems Owen Hart. Again, rest in peace, Owen Hart. That was a pretty tragic thing. That was pretty sad moment. But he was a good wrestler, had a good legacy. Obviously, his family has had a big impact on wrestling. And even though I'm not really a fan anymore, as a kid I was really into it. I remember my grandpa taking me to a wrestling match at the about the time it was called Riverfront Coliseum in Cincinnati. Got to see British Bulldog, who was my favorite wrestler at the time. My dad took me to one at the same place, around that time when I was in first, second grade. So, and yeah, shout out to my friend Edie, who lives in Calgary, who's been taught by one of the Hart brothers. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, this one has a kind of a cool story. So I was glad to be able to share this with you.